We welcome you into the Small Ball Podcast, the second podcast this week, number
Twice
2.
in 1 week.
Twice in 1 week. I'm Scott Ayers alongside Christian Dennis. Christian, Trevor's gone. Our producer Matt is gone. But we've stepped in and we're hoping that the camera is working. Chris, it was like two ding-dongs trying to screw in a light bulb was the best way to describe it.
Yeah, when it comes to our team, we are probably the two worst guys to have for camera issues.
Yeah.
So if our camera is bad, blame Matt G and Trevor.
Yeah, they were selfish. They couldn't make it tonight. If our camera is working, then you can see on our set, we have Chance the Rapper here.
Chance, Acid Rapper, Hacky Saka. What is up, my man?
The Rapper. Well said, Chance. Well said. He's a little shy here, and it is our second pod of the week because it's trade deadline week. And Christian, this was a crazy trade deadline. We had said on the show on Tuesday, it's like, let's see what happens. And surely enough, as I put my little head to bed, I wake up at about 6 this morning, and Kevin Durant is a Phoenix Sun.
Yeah, I was scrolling on Twitter all of last night, like, come on, give me a trade. Nothing. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to go to bed. And little did I know when I woke up the next morning that there was going to be 2 trades. Like you said, Kevin Durant was traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 first-round picks.
Wow.
I'm shocked. I was not expecting KD to be traded at this deadline.
Oh, no, not at all. Especially because there weren't any reports saying that he wanted out. And there's a chance that, and we might see something later on that maybe he did ask for it in private. Who knows? But, we know Phoenix fans, and even in this past offseason, they were saying, we're going to get Kevin Durant. We're going to get Kevin Durant. They didn't get him, and I was like, all right, maybe it was a pipe dream. Now, surely enough, they get Kevin Durant. They retain DeAndre Ayton, but obviously they lose 2 guys who I know a lot of Suns fans absolutely adored.
Yeah, talking to some of my Suns fans, friends today, I was like, hey, man, congrats on KD. And they're like, we gave up too much. It's like, what? Kevin Durant, the greatest player in the world right now? You gave up too much? But I mean, I understand where they're coming from. Mikal Bridges is a fan favorite. Has gone on multiple reports saying how much he loves Phoenix. Obviously, they were high on Cam Johnson because, he was going to start for them and, take over Jay Crowder's role, but then got hurt, and then now he's back, and then now he's gone. Yeah. So it's just a whirlwind of emotion for the Phoenix Suns fans.
And, we had talked about it a long time ago in an off-season podcast, what it would take to get Kevin Durant. And it was mainly focused around, I think Toronto was one of the main teams. And Trevor, who's not here, of course, but, he was like, I want to give up Scotty Barnes. He's a young, solid, great talent. Well, to get Kevin Durant, you had to give up young and great talented players. And both Johnson and Bridges are 2 very talented players that, but it makes sense for Phoenix. Yes, it hurts to lose those guys, but you have to understand, you're getting a top 5, some would argue top 3, top 2 player in the world in Kevin Durant, and your window is right now if you're a Suns fan.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting the Suns to go maybe a different route this deadline. Maybe they acquire a younger guard to kind of learn from CP3 since his window is closing to kind of, for their future kind of benefit them. But they kind of went the opposite direction where they're like, hey, CP3's got 1, 2, maybe 3 years left. Let's make the most out of what we got with him, and let's go get Kevin Durant. And, when you have a big 3 of Kevin Durant, Booker, CP3, I mean, that's pretty solid, all they have to do is get to the playoffs. And it's like, do you really want to play Kevin Durant in the first round?
No.
No.
With Devin Booker. And
no.
You know what? Chris Paul, he is aging, but it's still Chris Paul.
Right.
I think their biggest Achilles heel will be health at this point, because all 3 of those guys have had some sort of an injury issue this season, and Kevin Durant still out past the All-Star break. So when he comes back, the Suns could be, I mean, they could be as low as 8th in the West, but they could also be 4th in the West and are 8 games or 7 games out at first.
Yeah, and they still have DeAndre Ayton too, which is like a piece that Suns fans like kind of hate, but like since he's here, they like have to like him, sort of thing. And it's like he's a solid, like if he's like your 3rd to 4th option on offense, like your team's pretty good. So like you said, like they could literally be the 4th seed for all we know, like in the next couple of weeks. And I just, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they take these couple hits. They got to get healthy. Even Booker's kind of still coming back, and he's missing games here and there just to kind of revamp everything. So it'd be interesting to keep an eye out on how the Suns perform before KD gets back.
Definitely. And yeah, they are a championship caliber team. Now, before this trade, I did not see them as a team that had a chance to compete for a championship. This team can compete for a championship.
Yeah, we were
now.
licking our chops thinking we got it right. Thinking they were going to be like the 9th seed or at worst like the 6th seed or something like that.
Yeah,
but
not
now,
anymore. No, I think, granted, we'll see when these guys come back, but they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to make a really deep push. Some other teams that obviously made moves in the West, it felt like there were moves obviously in both conferences, but being 2 Western Conference fans of 2 teams in the West, we noticed other teams like obviously the LA Lakers getting D'Lo, which was huge. They really didn't give up too much, and they also got Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley.
Yeah, and I mean on top of it, they picked up Mo Bamba, who's a nice little rim protector, can stretch it a little bit. Yeah, I mean you got to give the Lakers some credit for kind of pulling off a decent haul for the little assets that they had to trade.
Yeah. We're not going to give any more attention to the L words. They did trade Tom Bryant, though, to the Denver Nuggets, and we talked about how Denver needed a backup center, and now they actually have one. They just lost tonight to the Magic, and we were watching. Denver had like 10 bench points, and that bench just looked – I mean, granted, they're dealing with some injuries right now, but having a guy who can score, he's not great defensively, but he's better than what they had. And obviously it makes that rotation, so now Jeff Green probably won't play. Zeke Naji can be the 4. It just shores up a lot of things for Denver. Wasn't a trade I thought of when Denver was going into the deadline. They also traded Bones. But getting a backup center was great for Denver.
I wasn't expecting Thomas Bryant to be moved. I thought,
Same.
He's played really well this year, especially when Anthony Davis was out. He performed really well, played really well with LeBron. So I kind of thought that like they would keep him just as insurance in case, AD does go down, because for all we know, based on his history, he'll go down at least one more time.
Yeah, he will.
But I really like the pickup for Denver because, like you said, when Jokic is out, it seems like the Nuggets kind of collapse on offense, which is kind of tough because he can't be playing the whole game, And so I think Thomas Bryant can, come in and he could, even play a little bit alongside Jokic at times. He's got a good mid-range, can do a little pick and pop sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mike Malone does with it and how it kind of elevates their bench offense scoring.
Yeah. And I think Denver will also look to get one of the buyout guards. And we'll talk about it feels like 100 players that are on the buyout market just because of some of the trades we saw. Just now that Bones is gone, and Bones hadn't played the last week and a half just because tempers had flared, relationships destroyed. He is gone. The Blazers. What's going on?
I don't know if the Blazers are trying to win now because they keep saying, oh, we're going to build around Dame. We're going to win now. Try to push for that. But then they go out and they collect, young guys. Matisse Thybulle, Cam Reddish. I'll even just say Kevin Knox's name just for the sake of the fact he got him. Matisse Thybulle, I think, is a great defender. And obviously, if you're Portland, you need really good defenders because Dame and Anthony Simons can't play a lick of defense. But at the same time, like, this doesn't move the needle for me. I don't think this makes Portland better. I don't even know if it makes them worse. I don't really know what it makes them.
Yeah.
They're just Portland.
They are in NBA purgatory right now. And it felt like that ever since they moved from CJ, because Portland realized, CJ and Dame, it's just not enough to win a championship. They moved CJ, and now they're in this spot where, I mean, that roster's not good enough to make a deep playoff run, and it might not be good enough to make the playoffs. And they keep telling themselves this lie that's like, this is a roster that'll be built around Dame. That roster stinks. Like, Jeremy Grant is a good basketball player, and Anthony is good. But that team, none of these moves moved a needle forward. If anything, it felt like it kind of actually moved backwards just because there was nothing that was impressive. They didn't do anything that was an impressive trade for themselves.
No, they traded Josh Hart, who, is a solid role player. He's actually a little bit better of a shooter than Matisse Thybulle. So it's a downgrade in the shooting. And then you acquire Cam Reddish, who hasn't played like all year because he can't make the rotation for the Knicks. So I guess he's going to come in and he's going to be like
a secret weapon.
Yeah. And then on top of it, you have like Shaedon Sharpe on your team, who's a rookie, who's young and athletic and needs playing time, but like he's not going to do anything. And you trade Gary Payton II, who's a defensive player, has had, playoff experience, a championship under his belt, and now you just got younger and inexperienced. So I just don't know what Portland is doing.
I have no idea.
If I was Portland, I'd probably I don't think Anthony Simons should play next to Dame.
No.
They're two. It's literally CJ 2.0. That's essentially what Anthony Simons is. Like, go out, try to get a player that can fit better with Dame, like McCall Bridges, OG Anunoby, like guys like that who are defensive, who can hit the open
dominant
shot. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and also on top of it, Yusuf Nurkic, man, what a walking trash bag that guy is. Like, he's always injured. He's sloppy. He's not that great. He's not even good defensively, but
I mean, how often, and I know part of this probably isn't true, but how often is it he plays, those first 20, 30 games, there's maybe some positive rhetoric around him, and then next thing you know, it's like some lower body injury, and he's going to miss 30 of the next 50 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens so often with him, and like you said, he's not like a top 5 big, he's probably not a top 10 big. He's just been around. So Blazers are kind of faithful to him, I guess.
Yeah, he'll have like a couple games that are good here and there. And you're like, wow, this guy is literally Jokic. And then he'll follow it up with like 0 points, 2 rebounds, assists, and 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
like he's not that guy.
No, he isn't. And yeah, Portland is just, it's really surprising because at the start of the year,
They were hot.
And I think a lot of people thought, man, a lot of things are clicking, but nothing's clicking right now.
I remember as a Sacramento Kings fan, seeing the Portland Trailblazers start like 4-0 and be like, man, why can't my team be the Blazers? Why can't I be a fan of the Blazers? And now here we are. Kings are in the 3rd seed, playing awesome basketball, and Portland's been doo-doo. So it's like, I'm so glad I'm not a Blazers fan.
And the worst part is Dame is scoring like 40+ in most of these games.
Oh, he's nuts. He's insane. He's one of the best point guards in our league.
He is, and he's one of those players where it just sucks to see him just kind of wither that career away. But you know what? Maybe flash forward in 3 months, the Blazers are in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to fast forward and just see them there because that would be
I would be shocked.
I would just be so shocked.
It would be an honor to like have our faces just plastered on a wall.
We'd be the biggest bozos on the internet.
We would. But they aren't. They will not. The Clippers, though, do have a team, do have a chance to make kind of a deep run. But they kind of went from having a lot of role guys to having just still too many role guys.
Yeah, I feel like they just need to consolidate. Like they have a lot of guys who are great NBA players. Like it almost seems like 1 through 15 on their roster is guys that are in a rotation on an NBA team. The thing is not all 15 guys can play a night. So I mean, like they acquired Mason Plumlee, which they needed more center backup.
I like that move.
If anything, I think actually Mason Plumlee statistically is better than Zubac this year.
Yeah. Oh, he's been awesome. He's been a great center.
So the drop off in the center position is basically there's no drop off, which is nice. They get Eric Gordon, who is similar in the sense of like a Norm Powell, who is gonna get you some nice points off the bench, and then they get your boy Bones Highland.
They got my guy Bones, Busy Bones, and I know Bones will be happy because I'm sure he's gonna get more of a chance to. He might even have a chance to start because Terrence Mann is the starter, so his window to start is greater than it would be in Denver because Jamal will always be the starting point guard. He will never start over Jamal. But you have to think of it as like this: they went from Reggie Jackson to Bones, Luke Kennard to Eric Gordon, and then obviously Mason Plumlee. Plumlee being like the big upgrade, and Gordon I like.
Right. But
Gordon and Bones are those big upgrades from Kennard and Reggie Jackson. I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been nicer to see them like, package like Rocco and, even Norm Powell or some other random player to try to upgrade like maybe a shooting guard or a power forward position that, when Kawhi and Paul George sit a little bit like, we got so-and-so to kind of keep us more afloat. That's a better player than these role guys.
Yeah. You would almost rather combine 3 decent role guys for one that is like a great 6-man.
Right.
And they didn't do that, but they did get better. Don't get me wrong. I think getting Plumlee, and you know what? If Bones comes back into form and can hit that potential that I know a lot of Nuggets fans think he can hit, he is going to be their starting point guard in the future, which is great for LA. I'm not sold on Bones. I think his shot selection is just really bad right now. But when he's on, he is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a LA character.
He is.
I think he's going to fit in the LA scene just way better, and we might see him thrive. He could easily be a Lou Will, Jamal Crawford-esque player,
And that would be great. And I think for him, truthfully, very happy that he gets a fresh start. I think both Denver and Bones just kind of need to have that divorce, and now it's going to be, all right, what's the X doing? And so I think Denver fans will closely follow Bones. On the other side, I think Bones is going to be like, well, let's see what the Nuggets are up to.
Right.
So, there were a couple other trades, but Christian, I think it's important to talk about kind of biggest winners and losers, but there were a couple big losers of the trade deadline. It really felt like it was teams who actually didn't make moves to get better. Miami, for example, they kind of just stayed put, which was really surprising. There were a lot of talks about maybe trading Lowry, upgrading the point guard position, maybe getting Fred VanVleet, other big names. They didn't do anything, and their team is not good enough to win an Eastern Conference that has a couple of juggernauts.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't do anything. I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet that was there was a rumor that Pat Riley was sleeping.
You saw that too.
He was sleeping during the deadline, which is like so funny because he's like 75 years old and old people doze off all the time.
They love sleeping.
Yeah.
And he quite literally could have been sleeping.
Yeah, for all we know. But I doubt that is true. No. But yeah, Miami, that's tough, man. Like Miami and Chicago, and I would even throw Washington in there. Those were teams that, they probably should have been more active trying to make some moves so that they can at least solidify, playoffs and kind of, getting in there. But the fact that they were stagnant makes it seem like they are just content with
mediocrity.
Yeah, it's like, let's compete to try to be either right above the play-in or in the play-in. Like that's it.
Yeah, that was really confusing. Chicago too is a team that I know there was a lot of hype last year because they had an amazing start. They were really fun. DeMar DeRozan was on a tear, but they don't have that same magic. And there's the reports of Zach LaVine and Billy Donovan being over it. Fans choosing Billy Donovan's side. And it's like, this is a time that you could probably sell LaVine fairly high. And then you can look towards the future. And they didn't do that. And that's kind of the nice thing about the trade deadline is, hey, this really isn't our year. And, hey, maybe it's time to rebuild a little. And rebuilds don't have to take 4 or 5 years. You trade LaVine and get great capital, you can start to retool even the following season.
Yeah, I mean, New York would have thrown 4 first-round picks and quickly and Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett. I don't know if that necessarily would be the trade, but they would have paid for LaVine because they've been wanting LaVine for the longest time.
Yeah, they would have. Toronto too got Jakob Poeltl, and that was them saying, and that's a good example of saying, hey, we're not going to just stick to where we're at. We're not going to sell because we're not getting what we want offers-wise. Let's go ahead and try to at least get a little bit better.
I think the Raptors were never planning on selling to begin with. That just seems like a Masai Ujiri move of just you know what? Yeah, we might sell, but in his mind, we're definitely not selling. I mean, they were in the playoffs last year. They've just always struggled, at least in the past couple years, of just not having that true center, playing Pascal at center, and that's where they've kind of run into some issues with their Project 6ix9ine. And Poeltl's a good player. He's been in Toronto before, so he already has chemistry with some of these guys, and he's going to be a good addition for them, I think, providing them with some strength and depth. He honestly is one of the most underrated centers.
I totally agree.
In the league.
Totally agree,
so he's going to be a nice addition. I don't necessarily know how well the Raptors are going to do for the rest of the year, but it definitely – I wouldn't put them out of any sort of playoff pictures. I mean, if Miami is staying where they're at, personally, when I look at the Raptors roster, I like Toronto over Miami.
I do too. I like them over the teams right now ahead of the Raptors, not including those top 4 teams. Brooklyn at 5, Miami at 6, Knicks and Hawks 7, 8, and then Chicago at 9. I like them over a couple of those teams, Miami, Chicago, and maybe even Brooklyn, because Brooklyn, who won tonight, they beat Chicago.
They're undefeated in the KD Kyrie post era. So
yeah, so maybe they're not because they're undefeated right now.
Maybe they were the issues,
and it's Spencer Dinwiddie's team.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Yeah, anything else you want to add?
I just want to add, lastly, Sacramento, as a Kings fan, I got to talk about you.
I agree.
They didn't make any move other than they acquired Kessler Edwards from the Nets. They had a trade player exception, so they just kind of fit him in there, and we traded away some draft rights to, I don't even know, Scott. We traded his draft rights away.
That's right.
And, I don't necessarily hate the idea that we didn't trade. It's hard to not get caught up with, seeing all these trades go and oh my gosh, we're losing all these trades. Everyone in the West is getting better. And all these guys we had targeted from King's Twitter are going off the board. But if we just kind of continue to do what we're doing, I think the Kings are going to be all right. I think the goal is just to kind of build something and have a foundation and having a culture. And things are going really, really well for us right now. So let's not mess up the mojo. Let's not, trade a couple guys who are potentially good for the culture just to, try to get a guy who's a little bit better than them for the rest of the year. Monte McNair is known as a value buyer general manager, meaning that he's going to trade for players that are young, they're good, and they have a couple years under their contract. So, I don't hate the fact that we didn't trade. There's a lot that needs to happen with all the teams below Sacramento to kind of pass us. Like, we would have to be pretty bad to finish the year for us to miss the playoffs.
And just how you guys have been playing too, I have a hard time seeing that happening for Sacramento. I know when teams get around you better at the trade deadline, your first instinct is, hey, we got to sell to really keep up. And you also have to realize that when new guys come to teams, it can sometimes take a while to build chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the stats, but how often does it happen where you make a big splash at the deadline and then you make a deep playoff run that same year?
Yeah. The only ones I could think of is like LeBron, Cavs.
Yeah.
And probably another LeBron team.
Yeah. Yeah, so it works, but I don't think it works as often as it does. Now, those splashes aren't always Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving.
Right.
But you know what? Philly got James Harden last year. They took a while to mesh and just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. And now they're a team that might be one of the favorites to win the NBA title this year. It just takes more than half a season to really gel with new guys that you're playing with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I could see, Sacramento, they're going to be a little bit more active come summertime. But
I think so too.
Yeah, I think they made the right move here to not mess anything up. But I totally agree with you. It's, teams need time to gel.
100%. And, this is a great stepping stone for Sacramento. They've pieced together this roster McNair has, right?
Right.
And now we know it works. And now it's, okay, how do we build upon it? Where can we get new assets in the offseason? And who knows how deep of a run Sacramento can make in the postseason. But even if it's a first-round exit, it doesn't matter where they end in the postseason is what I'm saying. It is a huge success based on making the playoffs after, obviously, the last decade that
people were saying, like, we're playing team at best. And that's like, I don't even know if we're playing team. Like, it's like we were fighting for, like, the Blazers and the Thunder and all these teams. But I think we're for sure a playoff team. I don't know where we land, but just the fact that there's playoff basketball potentially coming to Sacramento is a huge success for the season. And that's all us fans from Sacramento have been asking for is let's just get to playoffs and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And we'll see Coach of the Year awards. And this is for a different podcast. Mike Brown should absolutely have his name in the ring as a finalist for that award. Just the work he's done.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's coming from a Denver Nuggets fan.
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa. So check your sources, folks. Nuggets fan says Mike Brown should be a Coach of the Year finalist.
Wow.
Yeah, put that in a headline. Yeah, Christian, I feel like, obviously we had Chance, who was producing for us.
Thanks, Chance.
Thank you, Chance. No Matt, no Trevor, but we held down the fort tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, we tried our best. If this podcast sucks, again, it's Matt G and Trevor's fault.
It's totally their faults. If the camera, for some reason had any issues, not our faults. We're not camera guys.
I pressed the red button.
I watched him press the red button. I pressed the red button on our board here to make sure audio works. So you will be able to listen. We'll find out post-show if you're able to hear it. Able to see it.
I hope we can hear it too. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be an issue. But Christian, job well done. The deadline has passed, and I think the deadline for the show is over as well.
I would agree.
Perfect. Well, for Chance the Rapper and Christian Dennis, I'm Skyler. So we say so long for now, and we'll see you next week.
Bing bong.